is the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show. Your war room for insider news and draft analysis from deep within the confines of Cowboys headquarters at the Star in Frisco. And now, your host, Kyle Youmans.
Today is Thursday, March 20th, and today we are officially 1 month away from the NFL Draft in Green Bay, Wisconsin. This is the Draft Show presented by Miller Lite, the only beer of the Dallas Cowboys. It is Miller time, and the Tennessee Titans are on the clock. We are officially mock drafting today. We've got Zach Wolchuk, Bryan Broaddus, Tommy Yarrish, Nick Harris. I'm Kyle Youmans. This is our 1 month out mock, one of my favorite exercises we do every single year because it's going to change. It's not going to be the same, but it is a good idea 1 month out after the combine, after a lot of these pro days have now come to a conclusion, where we stand in terms of the NFL draft, Bryan, and we've got a lot of picks to be made here.
Got a lot of picks to be made, and man, I'll tell you what, I'm excited about it. I'm excited about the team. I'm excited that I get to pick for the Titans to start this thing off.
So Bryan's going to have the first pick. We're going to go in a rotation here. It'll be Bryan, Nick, Zach, Tommy, then me, and then we'll start back over at Bryan. Randomized list, that's how it ends up. And just so you know, we're going to pick the 12th overall pick for the Cowboys. In the second segment, we'll take a break before then, and Nick Harris has that pick this year. But we're going to talk a little bit more about it, get our opinions on it, too.
No pressure.
Yeah, no pressure, but got to get it done.
No pressure.
Without wasting any more time, let's go ahead and get things started. The Tennessee Titans on the clock. Bryan Broaddus has the Titans. What are you thinking at number one?
Yeah, I think in the Titans invested in their offensive line with a couple of the free agent signings and stuff that they made with Dan Moore and Kevin Zeitler. So I can't go that route. I think they're going to try and help their offense that way, but they need a quarterback. I'm taking Cam Ward, quarterback from the University of Miami, first overall.
Now, why Ward over some of those other possibilities?
I think Ward, when you look at his ability to play, everywhere he's been, whether it's Washington State, whether it's Miami, play of the team that he's been on has been elevated.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we've kind of you could just go through it. Every place that he's been, he's a winner. This kid throws the ball well. He's got mobility. When you watch him, the way he sees things down the field. He just naturally does things in a way where you're just like, wow, I could see where this guy can, why people follow him. Just watch the Cal game where they get behind in that football game, and he never gives up, and he just keeps playing and playing. And there's a lot of times where blocking and stuff breaks down for him, and his ability to move, scramble, buy time, keep his eyes down the field and make throws. This guy's a hell of a football player, so he deserves to be the first player taken and the first quarterback off the board.
Cam Ward off the board. Quarterback goes number one overall. We move on to Nick Harris, who has the Browns pick at number two.
Yeah, so I was sifting through my closet this morning, and I felt like this was accurate.
Appropriate?
Appropriate, yes.
Did Prime give that to you?
No, not at all.
Oh, okay.
However, if I'm the Cleveland Browns and I'm looking at this draft, I am seeing an opportunity to take a quarterback, absolutely. But I'm also understanding that I have a lot of money tied into a quarterback on this roster already. I am okay with tanking another year. Go get me the best player in the draft. I'll go get Arch Manning in 2026 and we'll call it a day. So I'm taking Travis Hunter.
Wow, okay.
So you're conceding and taking the best player.
Exactly. That's a win-win if you ask me. Because let's say you do take a quarterback. Let's say Cam Ward is on the board for the Browns.
Okay.
You take that quarterback. You're going to have him competing with a Kenny Pickett and a Deshaun Watson when Deshaun Watson gets back healthy. But you're also not going to be able to maximize his rookie contract because you have so much money tied into Deshaun Watson. With a talent like Cam Ward, I mean, you would want to do that. Next year's quarterback class is shaping up to be just fine. I'm okay with waiting another year. I think my scouting department's done a good enough job to understand that there's going to be a quarterback available for us in the top 10 next year. But go get me Travis Hunter, the best player in the draft.
All right, so now we've got Cam Ward, Travis Hunter, two big names right off the jump. And, of course, he's going to play both ways for you in Cleveland, right?
Sure is, yeah. Might even have him doing some place kicking, too. May as well, right? Why not, right?
Place kicking?
Why not?
Well, why not? Travis Hunter off the board at 2. Zach Wolchuk has the Giants at 3.
Well, the Giants here would be really, really happy with that because now they can take Shedeur Sanders, Travis Hunter's teammate, the quarterback out of Colorado. I think they'd love to get their hands on Sanders. I do think quarterbacks are going to go 1-2. I think Cleveland will still end up taking one, but I like what you're doing there because I agree. I think if you project ahead, next year's class better than this year's class. But Shedeur Sanders is built to play in New York City. This guy is prime time, much like his dad was. I do see anticipation in the way he plays, always able to keep his eyes downfield. He's mobile. He's got the ability to extend plays. The decision-making, he's a guy that really doesn't turn the football over a ton.
Yeah.
So are there certain warts in his game? 100%. Are there question marks? He's never played for anybody but his dad? Yeah, absolutely. But I see the talent there, and I think for the Giants, who are very quarterback desperate right now, we'll see what happens in free agency if they add that guy, Rodgers, who's hanging around. But I think Shedeur Sanders, home run pick for them here.
I'm interested to see what they think about Jackson Dart, the Giants.
Well, and there was a report today that Jets might be considering him at 7. So maybe Jackson Dart's the guy that goes as the second quarterback off the board.
Yeah, when you look at the quarterback conversation right now, that's really what it has become. It's not just Cam Ward number 1 and Shedeur number 2 anymore. If anything, that was flip-flopped at some point early in the draft process. Not the case anymore. Now you've got more of a jumbled board, Brian. Yeah. Do you think it would line up still where Shedeur's the second one off the board?
That's the question. I think everybody looks at these quarterbacks so differently, and depending on when you buy into Sanders, and I don't think Zach's wrong here. I just think there's people in the scouting community that are the media scouts are now starting to catch up on Jackson Dart, and I wonder if there's teams that have already got Jackson Dart over Sanders at this point. Not that anything character or anything problems wrong with Sanders. I just think that maybe that Dart might be a little bit better fit for some folk.
Okay, so Ward, Hunter, Sanders, Tommy, you're on the clock with the Patriots at 4.
Man, if I'm Elliott Wolf, I'm doing backflips down the entire facility right now just because this has worked out so well for you. New England's invested a lot in their defense and free agency so far. Milton Williams is a big signing for them. They went and got Harold Landry III, too. So we're going to continue to bolster this defense, and we're taking Abdul Carter from Penn State, the edge rusher. He's the second best player on my board, and they've got a rookie quarterback in Drake May who showed some promise last year. So you've got a little bit of that window there. They've improved on the defensive side of the ball, and you're getting, in my opinion, the best pass rusher in this class. Just an absolute freak of an athlete who was unstoppable down the stretch for Penn State, even through an injury. He wasn't at 100%, and he was still unstoppable. The comparisons out there of Micah Parsons, I don't know how much you want to believe that, but he looks the part, and he's going to be really good for a long time in this league. And I think that if New England is there for him, they're going to be really happy with that pick.
You have to make sure you're comfortable with the foot. Yeah, that's going to be a thing, and that's like the precursor to the stress fractures. This is something he's going to have to deal with in the future. The stress fracture shows the actual line in the break and stuff. Does he have some symptoms where maybe this is something that's going to happen in the future? I love what Tommy said about the player. I think he's absolutely right, but you have to feel medically comfortable with this kid going forward.
Absolutely.
If we see a slip from Abdul Carter in this first round,
it'll be because of the foot.
That's exactly why. Yeah. There are some character question marks.
Might be some of that too.
But really,
the foot is more of a concern.
Exactly. I think if you're going to see slides, and 1 or 2 picks I wouldn't consider a slide. Him going at 4 would not be a slide because of the talent that's at the top of this draft. But if you see him down in the lower parts of the top 10, maybe outside of the top 10, that's when you've got to start thinking to yourself, what is the medical? Were you going to say something there?
I was going to say, poor Tua, man. If they go get Abdul Carter, then Miami needs to go get a quarterback.
Yeah, go get somebody else. Yeah. All right, Jacksonville's on the clock at number 5. This is a team that needs a little bit of everything, but they need defensive line help. And they just had a new GM, new head coach. The GM, James Gladstone, the youngest GM ever. I mean, what is he, 34 years old? Comes from the Rams, comes from the mindset that you got to dominate on the interior of the defensive line. And I think the best player at this point in the draft that you could tab for this Jacksonville bunch is Mason Graham, interior defensive lineman from Michigan. He's a mauler, somebody that's going to come in and immediately turn around the interior of your defensive line. He's going to be a steady force to help you win the line of scrimmage again. Jacksonville has not done that in quite some time. They need somebody on the interior to help help out some of those edge rushers they've drafted over the last couple of drafts. Get somebody on the inside that can help you fix that. I know that you might want to go offensive line because Trevor Lawrence had some struggles last year in the protection up front, but we've talked about it on this show too many times. All these upper echelon offensive linemen concern me a little bit because of either medical red flags or position fit. Mason Graham doesn't concern me at all. He's going to be a dog in this league, and Jacksonville's going to take him at number 5 and revamp that defensive front overall. Zach keeps looking at me like I'm like staring into his eyes.
No.
I'm watching the film behind you too.
Okay, perfect. No, I think you nailed the pick. I think this is a lock. Like if Mason Graham's there at 5, I think Jacksonville's 100% taking him. I don't think that's a secret that they have an affinity for Mason Graham and they want to take a defensive tackle.
Okay, so going on to 6, this is where things can start to get interesting. Bryan Broaddus on the clock with the Las Vegas Raiders. Of course, we could talk about maybe Ginty here. You could talk about a wide receiver for the first time here. Where are you going at number 6?
I'm channeling my inner Al Davis here, and I'm telling you guys, I'm going to pick the best player on the board, and I think this kid is amazing. That was my Al Davis.
That was pretty good. Yeah.
I interviewed with him for 5 hours, so I'm just amazed.
Taking Matthew Golden, he ran a great 40.
I'll tell you what, this Golden kid is amazing.
He is so fast.
I'm trading the pick for Xavier Worthy.
Absolutely. Don't forget the kid Bond from Texas.
I'll tell you, I might take Tootin from Virginia Tech. He can fly.
Raiders got a handful of needs here, and
good riff session.
this secondary was not very good last year, and it was a big problem. And they really do only have one solid wide receiver here, and so that's a glaring need. But as I said, I'm channeling my inner Al Davis here. He's going to take a running back here. He's going to take Ashton Ginty from Boise here. He's going to pass on the secondary help, and he's going to pass on the receiving help. But man, when you're sitting about in the later rounds here, and maybe in the second round, we'll see Vegas probably take one of those, either receiver or defensive back. I just can't pass Ginty up for them right now. So he is the selection for me.
No, I like that as the pick because now we have that conversation this is realistic. This is very much so a scenario that could happen in late April where Ginty is off the board and you don't even have that conversation.
Yeah.
Zach, you made the noise there. You said, no, is that a pin throw for Dallas if he goes even that high? Or is it not even close enough to where that should be a conversation?
No, I mean, I'd love Ginty to get 12.
Yeah.
And I do think the Cowboys would take him if he were there at 12. I mean, to me, we've talked about it, clean player. You just want to make sure you're kind of navigating minefields here a little bit with some players that you got question marks. You might like them, but Ginty, to me, he's going to be a hit.
Yeah, Dallas shouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
There was a time when we were all starting when Kyle would go, we're 100 days until the NFL draft, and we were always picking Ginty at 12.
Yeah.
You're now everybody's again catching up here. Ginty is one of the top 3 players on this board right now. You just had a couple of quarterbacks go. You had a defensive tackle go. That's I think is one of the best in college football. This makes a lot of sense. I get for Dallas is not surprised. To me, this is not a pin throw. You should have known there's a possibility. If you're interested in Ginty, you were about to walk a minefield to get there, and that's where I think that Dallas. They have to be ready on the board that he's not going to be there. And much like they have in the past, they've been able to pivot before. They've lost Ryan Shazier, pivoted to Zach Martin. Have to be ready to do that in this draft.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. Ginty going to the Raiders here, and Pete Carroll comes from Seattle where they ran the football a ton, and they seemed with your buddy John Schneider, they take running backs every year.
Yep.
Yeah. I like that as the selection, and I think the quote there was, if you're going to take Ashton Ginty, you're going to have to walk a minefield to get there. That is the quote of the day from Bryan Broaddus. All right, on to pick number 7. The Jets are on the clock. Nick Harris, you've got it.
Yeah, if I'm the Jets here, I'm looking at 2 options here, and this is probably the discussion that I would have in my war room is we don't have a right tackle. Desperately need one to protect whatever quarterback that's going to be, whether it be Justin Fields or whatever else they decide to do. But we could also use a game-changing tight end. So you look at Tyler Warren out of Penn State, and you see his ability to change a game. But I like the offensive playmakers they have. I think that they can make it work at tight end, and maybe get a guy later on. I'm going to draft Armand Membu at 7 here if I'm the Jets. I'm going to take my right tackle, feel comfortable with it, so I don't have to worry about that later in the draft. I'd rather worry about tight end later.
Why him out of all the tackles that you could possibly take?
Well, first off, the fit at right tackle is obviously what makes the most sense. It's where he plays. I think he's the best tackle in this class, best pure tackle in this class. The more I watch him, the more I fall in love with this guy. Now, I think he's probably more of a 12 to 15 type talent, but if I'm the Jets, I'm completely okay with taking him at 7 and living with it.
And now, is there realistic expectation from the NFL in this sense that he could go this high? Is there that?
Oh,
much
no,
love
absolutely, yeah.
across the board?
Yeah,
'Cause I think this is a guy, if you're talking about Genty and the media scouts catching up, this is a catch-up guy.
You know, Simmons has the knee injury. Yeah, that's a question right there. Campbell, everybody's talking about short arms. Zach hates his stance, and he's not wrong about that.
Emory Jones, maybe that's an LSU thing.
It is an LSU
because Emory Jones is the same thing.
Same thing. Banks, do you want to play him at? Do you want to play him at guard? Do you want to play him at tackle? Remember, Nick's right. He's a right tackle. And, it's funny. I was talking with Mickey Spagnola yesterday about it. I'm like, how about your Missouri guy? He goes, I wish he was just a little meaner. I wish he was a little meaner.
Yeah. Yep.
I said, kind of mean like you were to me, Mickey? He goes, yeah, a lot like that. So, yeah, but no, this guy's a hell of a player, hell of an athlete. I mean, you watch him play. His pass blocking stuff is impressive, how he's able to move. That's a great pick.
And just 20 years old.
Yeah, that's a great pick.
Is he the best pass blocker in the draft?
I think, me, I have my love for Simmons.
Sure.
I have my love for Simmons, but he is not far. It doesn't take far to call that role. He's right in that mix.
Okay, so there you go. So off the board right now, Cam Ward, Travis Hunter, Shadur Sanders, Abdul Carter, Mason Graham, Ashton Genty, and then Membu out of Missouri is the final selection, pick 7. For the Jets on the clock, Carolina Panthers, Tommy Yarrish. Or no, wait, sorry, Zach Wolchuk.
All right, so Carolina needs edge. Obviously, losing Brian Burns, that hurt them quite a bit. They could use some defensive tackle help as well. Safety, corner, the secondary's a need for them. But I've heard some whispers. They are big fans of Mykel Williams, the edge out of Georgia, which would not make me upset to see him go off the board here.
Are you doing this on purpose?
No, I'm not. I think that legitimately he's in play here for Carolina.
Zach just didn't want me to take him at 12. That's all.
Yep, no doubt. I was blocking you there, Nick.
This is collusion.
Mykel Williams is a good player. The long arms. I mean, he's a freak athlete. Really good against the run. He's not a guy that gets caught out of position a lot. I think the question mark would be, like, as I was watching him, it would be Jalen Walker, his teammate, that would just flash. So I think there's upside when it comes to the pass rush there. But there's no question that he is one of the better ready-made run defenders in this draft. And if they can tap into any potential when it comes to the size and the speed, he's got a good bull rush. He's got a swim move. He could showcase some speed off the line. It's just inconsistent. But you got to love the way he can set the edge in the run game. 6'5", 265. I think teams are really going to covet the size that he plays with.
Okay, so with the talent level and the ceiling, we had that conversation on Tuesday, the ceiling conversation with Mykel Williams. There's some ceiling there. Is he available there at 8 for the Panthers? Yes. Is this the ceiling of where he could land? Is there any chance he goes any higher than what this is, or is this maybe where it feels right for Mykel?
I think this is where it's right. I don't see him going higher than
right?
8.
Daniel Jeremiah had him going to 29.
Oh, wow.
In a mock draft.
Yeah.
So
and the reason I'm pulling the trigger here is when we got our teams, I tried to do my due diligence and ask around, and that was a name that Carolina is eyeing.
Good to know.
Why not Jalen Walker?
Carolina, I think it's the size thing there, and I think I don't know how they view Walker if he is an off-ball linebacker. I think they want a defensive end.
If you were Carolina,
if I were Carolina, I'd go Jalen Walker.
I'd take Mike Green.
Walker ahead.
I'd take Mike Green.
Oh, I would too. Yeah.
I would take Mike Green. If you're looking for a pass rushing edge, you would take Mike Green there.
And remember, we're trying to be accurate here, so that's kind of why we're going this selection. I appreciate the inside work there.
So we're going like what we would do. Yikes. All right, we're at pick 9. I know what we're doing now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, what do you want with the Saints here?
No, I'm good.
Yeah, Tommy, what you got?
So if I'm the Saints, I'm looking at this roster. Derek Carr coming back at quarterback, and you'll see what you get there. I don't think there's many quarterbacks. I'm not as high on Dart as I think some people are starting to come around to be. So I'm looking at offensive weapons for this Saints team, and I think they're going to have a toss up here between Tetairoa McMillan and Tyler Warren. I'm going to go Tyler Warren here for New Orleans. I think that you look at what he can do kind of as a Swiss Army knife, and they're very familiar with those kinds of players. Think of Taysom Hill, who's already on the roster, but he's getting up there in age. So this guy can be their next Taysom Hill. Not as stocky, but a guy who can kind of fill multiple roles for you on offense. You can look at this guy as a wide receiver and a tight end all in one. He's not going to be the inline blocker that Taysom Hill or Jawan Johnson are on that roster, but he's going to be a guy who can get downfield for you and do a lot with the ball in his hands. And I think that's the type of playmaker that New Orleans needs. So Tyler Warren, tight end, Penn State.
That's interesting because you look at what Warren is compared to Brock Bowers, right? And what he was last year. And now you're having Warren go ahead of where Bowers fell in the first round to Las Vegas a year ago. But the impact was there.
Yeah.
You saw it from Bowers. You saw what he could do in year number one as a rookie and was an incredible difference maker for the Raiders last year. Can Bowers be that in that offense with the Saints? It's yet to be seen, but it is something to keep an eye on moving forward. Kind of a little curveball pick there.
I love the pick there.
I do. Why do you like Tyler?
I mean, I'm just a big fan of Tyler Warren in general. I mean, as you mentioned, the Swiss Army knife, but it looks different than what Brock Bowers played with. Very different styles. Brock Bowers is very elusive. He's got the speed. He looks like a wide receiver in a tight end body. Tyler Warren's a guy that's just going to run downhill and run through your face. Like, he doesn't have the elusiveness, kind of clunky. I've comped him to Gronk a little bit after the catch, but the production, it's there. And I love the catch radius. I think he's just an all-around hell of a football player. And to me, again, when you're trying to look at guys that I don't think are going to bust in this class, I think Tyler Warren's going to be a productive NFL player.
I agree.
Good call. Good call. All right. Chicago's on the board at number 10. This is a team that gave up the most amount of sacks in the NFL last year. Oof. And they're looking across the board, and they're seeing a couple of great players. Offensive linemen still on the board after only one is gone, and that was Armand Mimbu at 7 to the Jets. They're going to take the number one offensive tackle or offensive lineman on their board because they can play tackle, they can play guard, and that's not a question that the Bears really care about. They're going to take the best player across. They're taking Kelvin Banks out of Texas.
Wow.
They're going to take him, the top-rated offensive lineman on their board at the time, and Banks is going to be with the Chicago Bears wearing a different shade of orange and a little bit of navy mixed in between now this year, trying to protect Caleb Williams. All right, we're getting close to the pick for the Dallas Cowboys. On the other side of the break, we'll pick number 11 with Bryan on the clock and the 49ers. Who could they steal from the Cowboys? And then Nick Harris is on the clock with the Cowboys at 12, and then we'll give our insight on what we would do in this scenario. I'll run down the picks in a moment. I'll actually tweet it out as well. More of the Draft Show 1 month out mock right after this.
Life is a workout, and Smoothie King is here to help you power through. Whether you're maxing out overhead presses, pushing through chest flies, or being the hero your golden retriever needs to carry them over that scary bridge, Smoothie King has the fuel to help you go all out. Build muscle and boost your recovery with 45 grams of protein, 0 grams of added sugar, and delicious customizable ingredients in the Gladiator Smoothie. Available in chocolate, strawberry, and vanilla. Only at Smoothie King.
Hi, Drew Pearson, former Dallas Cowboy and now Pro Football Hall of Famer here. If you're struggling with your vision and tired of those contacts and glasses, don't throw a Hail Mary. Go where I went. Laser Care Eye Center, the official LASIK partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
Drew, thank you so much for trusting us with your vision correction procedure. At Laser Care Eye Center, we offer 6 different vision correction procedures to help patients see.
Check them out at dfweyes.com. Tell them Drew sent you. Hood, hood.
I'm Dak Prescott, quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys.
And they snap it to Prescott, who looks right. It's not there. He escapes left. He'll run for a first down.
Just like football, when it comes to crypto, it's important to have a team you can trust. With blockchain.com, I know I'm in good hands. Since 2011, they've been trusted by millions around the world to buy, sell, and trade cryptocurrency.
Prescott's going to run this himself. Run it up the middle, and he scores.
Whether you're new to crypto or an active trader, they've got you covered. What are you waiting for? Get started at blockchain.com.
Cowboys fans, when it comes to navigating the ever-changing world of tax, your business needs a partner it can trust to tackle even your biggest tax challenges. Ryan is the largest firm in the world dedicated exclusively to business taxes. Our team of tax professionals has local expertise in all areas of tax and can help you uncover savings opportunities you didn't know you had. Learn more about how Ryan can improve your overall corporate tax performance by visiting Ryan.com. Ryan, the official tax partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
This is the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show.
The Dallas Cowboys Girls Flag Football League is here with nearly 100 participating high schools. The Cowboys are thrilled to provide opportunities for athletes to develop their talent and foster the growth of girls flag football in the state of Texas. Find teams, view schedules, and learn more at dallascowboys.com/girlsflag. All right, we're rolling on in our 1 month out mock. We've got Zach Wolchuk, Bryan Broaddus, Tommy Yarrish, Nick Harris, with Chris Beam running all the film in the back. I'm Kyle Youmans. Glad you're with us. Let's run down the picks so far. 1 through 10 are finished. Cam Ward was first off the board to the Titans. Browns took Travis Hunter. Giants selected Shedeur Sanders. Patriots selected Abdul Carter out of Penn State. Jags took Mason Graham out of Michigan. Raiders took Ashton Jeanty out of Boise State. Armand Minbu, the offensive tackle from Missouri, goes to the Jets at 7. Michael Williams, edge rusher from Georgia, off the board to the Panthers at 8. Tyler Warren, tight end from Penn State, off the board to the Saints at 9. And then rounding out the top 10, the Bears took Kelvin Banks Jr., offensive lineman from Texas. Bryan is on the clock. San Francisco at pick number 11, and then we get to the Cowboys at 12.
Yeah, this is a pretty easy one for me because I'm thinking about what Robert Saleh does with his coverage, and he likes to play with his front 7 and create pressures that way. He plays a base cover 4, which is playing quarters. He doesn't want to give up big plays. He wants to be able to handle the run as well. This is very, very easy for me because I think that Jahdae Barron from Texas fits perfectly for what he's trying to do. You got to play with discipline. You cover well on the outside. If you have to play some man stuff, some pressure stuff, you can play in the zone. You tackle very well on the edge. The San Francisco 49ers take cornerback Jahdae Barron from the Texas Longhorns.
Ooh, is this a pin throw at this point for Dallas, Tommy?
I think somewhat, yes, depending on where they feel like they need to go with 12. If they feel like they need a wide receiver, I don't think so, just because Tetero McMillan is still on the board.
Yeah.
But if they feel like they need that corner help more than they need that wide receiver help, then yes, I think this is definitely a pen throw. Jahdae Barron, just so complete as a defensive back. He can play anywhere in the secondary. I feel like he played some nickel earlier in his college days, played really well there. They moved him out to the outside, and it felt like he got better. And so you can slide him back. He has the size to slide back at safety. I feel like he could play back there too. Just incredible ball skills, great footwork, super sound anywhere in coverage, and he's got a knack for knocking the ball away or picking the ball off. This is a really, really, really good player.
I agree with everything you said in his breakdown. I think it's a pen throw for us. I don't think it's a pen throw for the Cowboys.
Okay.
I don't think he's in play at 12. I think they want the size. Is kind of the vibe I've gotten at corner.
Okay, and if that's the case, then that's not Jahdae Barron.
No, it would be Will Johnson. I think Will Johnson would be the one that they would consider in the first round.
Which is fair. Yeah, that's totally fair. And I think Johnson might be in play there more than we're talking about. But we've brought that up the last couple of shows. Now, I don't know if it's a pin throw because of the guys that are still there. I mean, we're looking on the board at the moment. Tetero at McMillan.
You're far from being wiped out right now.
No, this is kind of a great scenario, Nick. Do the right thing, Nick. Do the right thing, Nick.
You got Will Campbell on the board. You've got James Pierce, Mike Green, Will Johnson, Luther Burden, your pick of the wide receiver class, basically, across the board. You've got Josh Simmons still there. I mean, it is all on the table for the Cowboys, and they're going to come out with a great pick at 12 here. And remember, we're not doing trades. There is a trade down thought process here. Would you think about trading down if there were this many names here?
Absolutely. I'm looking at Seattle at 18, seeing that they have 2 second-round picks and 2 third-round picks, and there's an opportunity there. Now, if Seattle gives you a call, you got to entertain that. That second-round pick that they have would almost be a perfect matchup on the points chart. So that would I want to stack top 100 picks.
Yeah.
I want to stack top 50 picks, even if I could. So I would certainly entertain phone calls, but for the spirit of the conversation, Kyron Lacey. No, I'm joking. We're going to go Tetero McMillan.
Is that a shot at my team?
No. It was just the funniest possible scenario. Tetero McMillan here at 12. It just makes sense. I mean, these guys, they need an outside receiver. I want to implore people who are looking into the draft to not overthink this guy. And I'm trying not to do the same. I was just telling Brian as we were walking in here, I watched Matthew Golden again last night, and I was like, man, this is going to be a tough decision to make between one or the other. But if you're looking at it for this team and understanding Tetaroa McMillan's size, his ability, his red zone ability, his scoring ability, how he could open up a guy like CeeDee Lamb, it makes a lot of sense. Now, what are the concerns with Tetaroa McMillan that have had people overthinking things? The speed is maybe not the best of some of these guys. He ran a 4.5 plus in his pro day earlier this week. But look, there's guys like Mike Evans. There's guys like Drake London out in the league that are performing at that type of size who weren't blazers in the combine or draft process. I think this guy's talented enough. I think his route tree is developed enough. One concern that I do want to throw out, and again, this is something I was telling Brian as we were walking in, that I forgot until I went back to my notes from during the season. He's had the same quarterback since he was a freshman in high school. So I wonder how much there will be a transition period for Tetaroa McMillan. We've talked about, Shedeur Sanders having the same head coach since he was born. What about having the same quarterback as a receiver? How is that going to be a little bit different for him at the next level? But I still think this guy's going to be a bona fide player. There's concerns with every draft prospect, but I think this is the perfect guy for the Dallas Cowboys at 12.
Now, would you do anything different? I personally wouldn't do anything different. I would take McMillan there. I still think he's the best wide receiver in the class. You have the pick of the wide receiver class. Nobody had gone outside of Travis Hunter. So I'm taking Tet McMillan here, and I'm pairing him with CeeDee Lamb. I think that's a great combo. Gives you the physicality, gives you some size that you don't have in your wide receiver room, and I'm running with it. Would any of you guys do anything different here in this scenario with the board that's available to you?
No. The three names that I would discuss would be McMillan, who I've got as the fourth best player on my board, Mike Green, who's the sixth best player on my board, and then Jalen Walker, who I've got as the eighth best player on my board.
But you're still going with Tet.
But Tet's the highest graded, and it fills a need. I think he's a great complement to CeeDee Lamb. I think there's a lot of overthinking when it comes to this. I think he's clearly the best wide receiver in this class for me. He's a certified bad ball catcher. He played with his buddy, I guess. But, the quarterback play could be erratic at times. And, you look at the 4.53, which is what Mike Evans ran. Yep. I've comped Tet McMillan to Mike Evans because he's a player that you see play faster on tape. He's a long strider. He gets open down the field. He makes plays after the catch. He excels on in-breaking routes over the middle. And it's not even 50-50 balls. It's 70-30, 80-20. You throw it up to Tet McMillan, that's his. Great job of hand-fighting down the field with DBs to gain positioning. I love him. And again, when you need a hit on this pick, I think you're hitting on Tetaroa McMillan at 12.
I think it's going to come down for Dallas in this scenario, McMillan, Golden, and Will Johnson, if that's the case. I think those are the three players they're going to have to decide between, and McMillan makes a lot of sense.
So would you go with McMillan there?
I personally would myself. I'm just saying they're probably going to look at it as McMillan, Golden, and Johnson. It might even be McMillan, Johnson, Golden. But if they're going to consider a defensive player at this point, I think it's going to be Will Johnson.
Good to know. What do you think, Tommy?
Yeah, I think it's hard to pick aside from McMillan. You just look at what he's going to be able to do for you as a big body downfield threat. He's going to be instantly the tallest wide receiver on the Cowboys roster by a full 2 inches when he gets drafted. So Dallas has been looking for that downfield guy they can pair with CeeDee Lamb. It allows him to focus more in the slot where he's played a lot of snaps and he's been at his best. You got your big outside guy for Dak Prescott, and he's a guy where you can throw the ball in a lot of different places, and because of his big catch radius, he can come down with it. He's a freak of an athlete. Speed is not as big of a concern to me as it is for some others. I think this guy is going to have a long, successful career, and if it's with Dallas, it'll be another good one at the wide receiver spot.
Here's the thing, though. We're all in consensus here, which means this will never happen.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen. Sorry, everybody.
Could we do something? Could we adjust something real quick?
Sure. You saying if McMillan's off the board?
Take his trade. Take the Seattle trade.
Okay. And you're going down to 18.
Carry this thing to 18. I know we said we weren't going to do any trades.
We'll just play it.
Can you guys play it out if we made this trade?
What was the return there, Nick?
Don't worry about the trade. Just worry about going to 18.
Okay.
We'll just see who's there.
Yeah, theoretically.
Just see who's there. Okay.
All right. So Zach's on the clock with the Dolphins at 13.
Well, okay. No, it would be Seattle's on the clock at 12.
At 12.
At 12. Pick for Seattle. Who's got Seattle?
Zach doesn't, actually.
Oh, okay.
What I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Can you want to play it now where
Seattle takes whoever?
Yeah, take Seattle and now go to 18. We all know that we would take McMillan.
Sure. Yeah.
Just take it down to 18 and see who's there.
Would they take McMillan there? Would they be coming?
No. I'm talking about Dallas. Dallas. We know as a group.
I get it.
If
I'm
at
saying
12,
Seattle. I'm saying Seattle. Did they come up to get McMillan
Pickett,
as a guy who's there?
Just Pickett.
I know they signed Cooper Kupp, but let's
they
be
could
real.
just take
Yeah.
McMillan.
Could
Yeah,
they
they
be going
could
up to
absolutely
get
take
McMillan?
McMillan. That's fine. Yeah, they lost DK Metcalf. That would be a good. They need a big-bodied receiver next to JSN. I don't think that would be the pick there, but just for conversation's sake,
what do you
that's
think
fine.
the pick would be?
Let me see now because they were picking in the 20s, so I've got to readjust.
Is it 18?
18. Almost every
at 18.
mock I've seen is having them getting Tyler Booker.
Yeah, they need an offensive lineman.
Will Campbell's there.
And Connor Williams retired on him. I think Tyler Booker would actually make a lot of sense for them there. Or I think Gray Zabel could be a sneaky pick out of North Dakota State. Yeah, if they want to kick Campbell into guard, or they could even, they could use some help.
So you're picking now at 12.
Yeah, for Seattle.
Yes.
I'll go Tyler Booker here for them.
Okay. So Tyler Booker's off the board.
Here, Booker is gone. McMillan, still there at 13.
The guard from Alabama.
Right.
Correct.
Right.
And so, Zach, you're back on the clock.
Yeah.
Dolphins at 13.
Okay, so with Miami, Miami does weird stuff. And again, I was asking around about what they're interested in. Defensive back. I think Tyler Booker would also be in the conversation here. Will Campbell still on the board might be interesting for them, but they covet speed. I think Will Johnson's in play, but I'm going to give them a safety. Shake up this mock a little bit. Nick Emenwari, safety out of North Carolina, goes to the Miami Dolphins here at 13. I do think they like him. He might be their top safety on the board. Ran a 4.38. They love speed. You know what Mike McDaniel covets there. And, hey, he's got the size, everything you want. The fluidity's there, the change of direction. He's an interchangeable safety, was a team captain. I just want more violence when he strikes and a willingness to mix it up. Like that size, I've seen some people say, he could even freelance like Jaron Kearse did at linebacker. I don't see that play style from him. I don't see a guy that wants to come downhill and absolutely smack you. But as a safety, the athleticism, the traits, they're all there, and they need help in the secondary.
Why not Malachi Starks?
I think they like Emenwari more than Starks, and personally, I don't have either as my best safety. I think I would go Makuba or Xavier Watts ahead of both players.
Okay, so Emenwari is off the board. We're going to Tommy with the Colts at 14.
Yeah, when you look at the Colts, this is a team that is pretty set at wide receiver, so I feel like that takes McMillan out of the equation. And they picked Latu with their first-round pick last year. He kind of had an up-and-down year for them, but overall pretty productive. I think they continue to bolster this pass rush. I'm going to go with Jalen Walker, the linebacker from Georgia. Linebacker, edge.
These receivers aren't going.
You let them figure it out. I think that this is just an overall good defensive player who has a knack for getting after the quarterback, and I don't know how he can drop back into coverage and help you as much back there as he does rushing the passer, but certainly a really fun piece to add to your defense, and I think that he fits in well with what Indianapolis is looking to do.
And I think Atlanta behind them would take an edge rusher too.
Yep.
And so that would be a spot where they would look up ahead and say, man, we were hoping Walker would fall.
Yeah.
And so now Atlanta's having to scramble at 15. I've got them on the clock. I'm going to go with Mike Green, edge rusher out of Marshall there. I think he's going to fit that mold. They need speed on that defense. They've got some speed on offense. They've got the wide receivers and the running back and the quarterback taken care of, at least what they think, moving forward. So no need to really stretch it on the offensive side. What they need is team speed, and Green gives you that with some length off the edge. I thought about maybe going with a guy like a Shamar Stewart there, somebody off the edge, but it's just not the same as what Mike Green can bring you from a speed standpoint. I think the Falcons take him at 15 out of Marshall. That's where I would go.
Favorite pick of the draft so far.
I know you love Mike Green at 15.
I'm with you, man.
Hey, it fits the jersey.
That's great
number,
value.
right?
It does. Great value, and the production speaks for itself. Sun Belt Conference record, 22.5 tackles for loss, registered to TFL in 12 of 13 games. I get it. It's at Marshall, but the skill set this guy has, the first step quickness, he's going to be a stud.
Yeah. What do you think, Brian, at 16 with the Arizona Cardinals on the clock?
Arizona Cardinals they're hunting, I think, defensive line help here. They've signed Josh Sweat, and then they re-signed Baron Browning as well. They need to improve the interior of their defensive linemen. Their defensive tackles were just not very good, and they've added Dalvin Tomlinson as well in free agency. I just think that's kind of a piece that we'll see how that really plays out, but. They're in a mode right now where I think that Kenneth Grant or Walter Nolan probably makes some sense for them right now. I'm going to give them Kenneth Grant here. I'm going to give the Cardinals the Michigan defensive tackle, the big nose, the one technique. The Michigan defensive tackle, one technique, Kenneth Grant is who I'm going to give them.
Second interior defensive lineman off the board. Second one out of Michigan as well after we saw Mason Graham go to the Jags at 5. Moving along, and I mean, we're looking at this side scenario here.
See,
Will Campbell and Tet McMillan are still on the board.
I wanted to see if that was really going to be the case. How far down? I mean, if you want to, you could probably keep going and see this, but you can make the pick there at 18 if you want.
And 17 is still Nick on the board here with 17.
Yeah, if you're looking at in between 12 and 17, the only team that you would be worried about taking a receiver would be the Cardinals. Now they took a first-round receiver last year, so you factor that in as well. And I agree with Brian. I also had them taking Kenneth Grant in my mock last week. So the Bengals are certainly not taking a receiver. They need some damn defense.
So? You don't think they're going to go receiver here, Nick? It's possible. It's possible.
And it's crazy that Will Campbell has slid this far. We would be talking about, okay, is there a gas mask video out there? Now, there's a couple of different scenarios here for the Bengals. If they end up trading Trey Hendrickson, then they need to go get an edge to replace him. But if they don't, I like them to get some secondary help. And in this case, I would have them taking Will Johnson out of
Michigan. So back-to-back Michigan Wolverines off the board. This would be a dream scenario, right? You get
What's their offensive line situation?
It's they took Amarius Mims in the first round last year. Had him at right tackle. There was definitely some learning curve with him because he only had 9 starts going into his career. Orlando Brown at left tackle. He's played up and down. Ted Karras at center's played up and down. They certainly could go get a Will Campbell, but with how much money that they have invested on their offense, they got to go get young guys on defense because they'll never be able to sign anybody on defense for the rest of time. So
yeah, I mean,
they got to go.
I just know the Brown family likes Ohio State players because their father, the patriarch, Paul Brown.
Did you talk about Simmons here?
Yeah, he coached Ohio State. I mean, he goes all the way back, and they tend to draft Ohio State players. And I wonder if they would consider Simmons with the offensive line situation. But it's funny, they take a Michigan guy with Will Johnson, but it makes a lot of sense.
Well, they had the worst guard play in the NFL last year. So I mean, maybe Donovan Jackson.
Maybe
they could look at him.
Yeah, maybe that might be a little rich considering. But they tend to drift towards Ohio State players. That family does because of the father's background at Ohio State. So it's just something. And being an Ohio team, sometimes they look at that as well. But they like LSU players though too. Campbell makes a lot of sense.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying?
That's true.
Yeah, the fact that he's still on the board, like Nick said, the fact that Tet McMillan's still on the board, this is the type of skid that if Dallas doesn't take him at 12, we could see him on. Yeah. And that's why he ends up in some of these mocks like Daniel Jeremiah and Dane Brugler and seeing them kind of a little bit further down. But, Zach, you're on the clock, the Seahawks/Cowboys pick at 18. I mean, when we trade down like this, I think we're going right back to Tet, right?
Yeah, no, this would be Tet McMillan again. Yeah, 100% it would be Tet McMillan for me. The value is unbelievable, and you've picked up an extra second-round pick. So
feel really good about it.
Yeah, I mean, this would be beyond anything that we could ever imagine. Night one of the draft, this is bigger than Cooper Beebe. This is like hell yeah, pants are flying off, pizza party for everybody. We're cracking Miller Lights.
I'll tell you what.
Okay, bet.
Sounds good.
Let's do it.
If Dallas were to parachute to 18, I think a team would trade up ahead of 18 to go
try and go get a guy.
To go get Tet?
Yeah.
And that's the fear. That's why I personally wouldn't move out at 12. I'm staying there, and I covet Tet McMillan. 4th best player, you're getting him at 12 for me. I can't move on that.
And for the spirit of the draft, Seattle, you'd be taking Booker here?
Yeah, I just went Booker for him,
Yeah. So there you go. I mean, you've got Tyler Booker and Will Campbell still on the board, falling further and further. 19 Buccaneers. Tommy Yarrish, you're on the clock.
So Dallas took McMillan at the trade back spot at 18.
That's what I was going to ask.
It was just a flip flop. Yeah. 12 and same scenario.
Same scenario. Yep. Can I present a quick other argument for 18 real quick?
Yeah.
I would consider Will Campbell here if he slides. I think you
for Dallas.
Yes, I think if you're looking at guard for Will Campbell, you've got a guard position open for competition. You sign Robert Jones in free agency. You've got Brock Hoffman, TJ Bass in there. But if you've got a guy in Will Campbell who a lot of people have as a consensus top 10, 15 player in this draft, and you parachute back to 18 and he's still there for you, I think you have a conversation about that. I think you at least have a conversation about it. So I'm just throwing that out there. 19, Tampa Bay. I think that you look at this Bucs team, and I think I look more defense for them, and I'm going to look at a guy with a lot of high upside here. There's question marks for character, but I think that you've got a lot to work with still. So I'm going with James Pierce, the edge rusher out of Tennessee. Really high ceiling, great build, super athletic. Would like to see a little bit more production. You kind of saw him thrown around as a guy who maybe would be the first overall pick very early on in this process. He's got all the tools in the bag, but just still needs to come along a little bit more. And I feel like with good development at the NFL level, he'll be able to do just that. You pair him on a defensive line that's got Vita Vea and a good defensive backfield. I think this is a pick that can work out really well for Tampa Bay's defense.
Boy, he could be a monster there.
Yeah.
He could really be good there. All right, just rounding out the top 20 here. The Broncos on the clock. They need some running back help, but I don't think they're going to take it this early, especially with Ginty already being off the board. You could maybe see corner here, but with Barron and Johnson there off the board, I don't think they could necessarily take a guy at 20. And same thing at tight end. I think the only tight end that would be available there would be Tyler Warren. So I'm going to go wide receiver, and my second best wide receiver on the board is Luther Burden from Missouri on the board at 20 with the Broncos. I think that's a guy that can help Bo Nix out, give you some extra weaponry on the outside after kind of going back and forth through a good rookie season for Bo Nix, but kind of a shaky year overall for that offense. They need weaponry. They need somebody that can create separation. Burden can do that, and I think the Broncos would take him at 20 and run with it moving into the next couple picks. All right, we've got to take our second break. When we come back, Bryan is on the clock with the Steelers at 21, and we'll continue to wrap up our 1 month out mock draft here on the Draft Show presented by Miller Lite.
I'm Darren Woodson, former Dallas Cowboy player and Super Bowl champion. When I played in the NFL at a high level, I relied on my vision to see the field. As I started getting older, I noticed my vision wasn't as good, and I was getting frustrated from wearing my glasses all day. I went to Laser Care Eye Center, and Dr. G talked about all the options. Thanks to technology and Laser Care Eye Center, I can see near, far, and between. Don't fumble your vision any longer. Visit them at dfweyes.com and tell them Darren sent you. They got me back on my game.
Star Sports Tours is the only official fan travel partner of the Dallas Cowboys, offering exclusive game weekend travel packages with pre-game sideline access and photo ops with current players, cheerleaders, and Cowboy legends. You want to stay at a team hotel, attend the best tailgate party in Texas, tour the Star, and talk X's and O's with me, Everson Walls? With Star Sports Tours, you can. Visit cowboystravel.com to book your travel package today.
Life is a workout, and Smoothie King is here to help you power through. Whether you're maxing out overhead presses, pushing through chest flies, or being the hero your golden retriever needs to carry them over that scary bridge, Smoothie King has the fuel to help you go all out. Build muscle and boost your recovery with 45 grams of protein, 0 grams of added sugar, and delicious customizable ingredients in the Gladiator Smoothie. Available in chocolate, strawberry, and vanilla. Only at Smoothie King.
How about them Cowboys? Or how about them Tyson Cowboys Nuggets? As we cheer for the stars on the field, we love that we've also got some stars on our plate, thanks to Tyson brand star-shaped Cowboys Nuggets. That, along with all our other favorite Tyson Foods products, sure make game day special. Score some delicious Tyson Cowboys Nuggets and become a game day star, just like our Cowboys. As you enjoy your stars on and off the plate, remember, tailgates and game day have always been Tyson.
This is the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show.
All right, Kendrick Lamar and SZA are bringing the Grand National Tour to AT&T Stadium on Saturday, April 26th. Limited tickets remain. Don't miss one of the biggest shows of the year. Get your tickets today at SeatGeek.com, the official ticketing partner of AT&T Stadium. I don't know why that's on the draft show.
That's on day 3
That's
of the
day
draft.
3 of the draft. Why are you going to see Kendrick
I'll tell you
Lamar
what,
and SZA?
day 3 of the draft, it'll be wrapped up about 3 p.m., and you can bowl it out of there. You might see me there. Who knows?
Will we?
Maybe.
Maybe.
21.
Yeah, if you can get
Be a
tickets,
heck of a Sunday.
you can get it on SeatGeek.com.
Good way to cap off the draft weekend.
Oh, 100%.
Party with Kendrick.
And SZA.
And SZA.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, we're moving on in our 1 month out mock draft. Here's what we have I'm just going to start from 11. Jahdae Barron goes to the 49ers at 11. Teteroa McMillan to the Cowboys at 12. A possible trade was made with Seattle to go back to 18. They would have ended up with McMillan anyways, and we'll continue on from there. 13, Dolphins, Nick Emanwari off the board to Miami. Jalen Walker, edge rusher, off the board to the Colts at 14. Mike Green, edge rusher to the Falcons at 15. 16, the Cardinals selected interior defensive lineman Kenneth Grant from Michigan. Fellow Wolverine Will Johnson goes off the board at 17 to the Bengals. Seahawks at 18 take Tyler Booker. That was also the spot where the Cowboys could have taken Teteroa McMillan with a trade back scenario. The Buccaneers at 19 take James Pierce Jr. out of Tennessee. And then 20, the Broncos take Luther Burden to shore up their weaponry outside of Bo Nix up in the Mile High City. On to the Steelers at 21. On the clock, Bryan Broaddus. You got it.
Jackson Dart, quarterback.
Oh,
let's go. Easiest pick of the draft.
I love it.
Yeah.
That seems fun.
You got a quarterback, like you say, they're talking about Aaron Rodgers at 41, Wilson at 36 years old. They have nobody that really can throw it. Mason Rudolph, Skylar Thompson, no, thank you. You don't trade for DK Metcalf and others and give him a $150 million contract and play with the quarterback spot. This is where Jackson Dart is going to end up. Pittsburgh at 21. Even though that Mike Tomlin was at Alabama Pro Day and had dinner with Milroe, I don't think Milroe is a first-round quarterback. So Jackson Dart at 21 here to the Steelers.
I feel like that might have hurt your soul a little bit hearing about Milroe there.
Yeah, I like Milroe a lot. I know it's an unpopular guy to like, but I just feel like there's so much you can work with there.
Oh, there's a lot to work with.
Athletic perspective.
Sure.
But I completely also, on the flip side of that, understand the concerns about him throwing the ball. I think what he can do for you as a runner is
he had 3 incompletions yesterday, from what I heard from my guys that were there.
So the accuracy is troubling, but he's got a cannon of an arm, and he's been a great deep ball thrower his entire career at Alabama. Some of the decision making hasn't been great, but he changes games with his legs. You look at the Georgia game, you look at the LSU game. I'm sorry, Brian.
No, absolutely.
Same
thing Dak Prescott did.
Yeah, and I just feel like if he gets to the right system, he can be a really good player in this league. That's a big if. And you look at a guy like Anthony Richardson from a couple of years ago, and you see how that's worked out so far, because he's kind of the similar kind of athlete, not as quick as Milroe is, but it's those kinds of concerns that you're going to have to deal with, and that's why fit is so important for a guy like Jalen Milroe. But I'm still a fan. I think he can be really good.
Speaking of fit, do not let Mike McDaniel get his hands around Jalen Milroe. Things would be dangerous in South Beach.
Ooh. Yeah, that would be interesting.
Ooh, it would be.
Yeah, that would be fun. All right, moving on to 22. Chargers on the board, Nick Harris.
Yeah, this is an interesting one because you look at potential needs for the Chargers. You could look in the offensive playmakers, tight end, receiver, running back. You could really make a case for any of those. They could use some defensive line help as well. But I want to go to the guy who just continues to fall. If I'm the Chargers, I feel lucky that this guy is even still on the board. I have my right guard in Mekhi Becton. I'm going to go get my left guard and get Will Campbell.
I'm shocked he's still here. I mean,
yeah, me too.
Is that a failure upon the draft if that happens? If you've got a guy like Campbell here, and why is he the one that's?
No, we all have questions about these offensive linemen. Let's act like we don't. I mean, what I'm saying there is that this in the years past, it's been this guy. They've all lined up. We have questions about Campbell, Simmons, Mimbo. Booker, Banks, we have all these questions about these guys, and I think teams are feeling the same way. They're probably thinking like, man, do I really want to take Campbell at 10 when he's probably more like this? I think that the struggles that we're going through trying to evaluate these offensive linemen are the same struggles NFL teams are going through right now.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. And with Campbell falling down to 22, I think it might have been a thought process for the Packers at 23 as well, who need some offensive line help, but they could go elsewhere. Zach, what do you got with the Packers at 23?
Yeah, I think they really want a corner. Now, you've got the top 2 corners gone with Barron and with Will Johnson. So do they pivot? Do they look at, a Siobhan Revelle? Do they look at a Maxwell Harrison from Kentucky? Is that a little early for some of those guys? They also need defensive tackle help, and this is a loaded defensive tackle class. Wide receiver, for whatever reason, they don't take. But Emeka Egbuka sitting there and Matthew Golden, I think, would be very, very interesting if you're Green Bay. But I am going to go along the defensive line because, whatever reason, they do not seem to covet taking offensive players in round one. And they missed a couple of years ago on a defensive tackle when it came to Devontae Wyatt. So I'm going to give him my best defensive tackle left, and that would be Derek Harmon out of Oregon. Big body, is athletic. I think he's a one-tech, but he can give you some pass rush. I love Harmon. That'd be a good pick up the middle for Green Bay.
That's a good one, and that shores up that defensive line a little bit more. They could use some edge help too, but with all those edges across the board, like Green and Walker off the board early, I think this is a great pick. Harmon, just like we talked about, a multifaceted defensive tackle. He can rush the passer. He can stop the run. He did both of those on the West Coast, and now he gets to go up into the cold a little bit more in Green Bay. Vikings on the clock at pick number 24, Tommy Yarrish.
Yeah, we're going with a little defensive lineman run here. I'm going with my second best defensive tackle in this class, and that's Walter Nolan out of Ole Miss. Super powerful, hard to block one-on-one. He's got a knack for getting into the backfield and getting to the quarterback, blowing up run plays too. Good hands at the line of scrimmage, throws guys off of him. Has dealt with a lot of double teams in college at Ole Miss and at Texas A&M. He's getting tired of that. When we talked to him at the Senior Bowl, he told us that he's gotten better in speed to power. That was something that Nick asked him about. This is a really good player, I feel like, in Minnesota. Could use some of that help in the interior of their defensive line, so they take Walter Nolan, Ole Miss.
I want to throw out one possibility for Minnesota at 24. Stephon Gilmore was merely a placeholder for them at corner last year. They could really benefit by going and getting a corner early in this draft, and no team in the NFL loves tall, long corners more than Minnesota. Siobhan Revel is one to keep an eye on here out of East Carolina.
That would be a good selection there. And then you've even got Rebel's got more size than Amos. Amos is more of like a 6-foot guy, right? So not as much across the board. But, yeah, Rebel is a possibility. Texans on the clock at pick number 25, and they are looking up and down their board. They're saying, my goodness, there's a guy that played a couple hours away from me that can help and run some routes, can possibly be the speedster that we need outside of Stephon Diggs on our wide receiver core, and he's still on the board at this point in time. Matthew Golden out of Texas is going to remain a Texan, and he's going down to Houston at pick number 25. I think this would be a great fit. They would be ecstatic about this. You're talking about a natural route runner, great hands, separation, all there. You have some speed in your wide receiver core already across the board, and this would just continue to up that a little bit more weaponry to throw the football to as well for C.J. Stroud down there in Houston. That would be a great pick for the Texans.
Hey, they got to block for him, or else he can't throw the football. That offensive line's looking really bad. But this would be, hey, hometown kid.
Yeah.
Played at Houston before he transferred to Texas, so I could see this. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Klein Kane kid as well.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, so he's from down there.
Go Canes.
All right, there you go. Bryan Broaddus, the Rams are on the board at 26.
Yeah, the Rams have been dying since they let go of Jalen Ramsey. They just have not been able to replace him. None of the quarterbacks, the cornerbacks are that kind of level. This is kind of maybe where they thought if Barron had to slid down, that might be something to think about there. So I feel like that, to me, this is where Nick made a great point about Minnesota needing Ravel. I think this is where Ravel goes. I think that this is the perfect spot for him. So Minnesota Vikings will select Ravel from East Carolina. Siobhan Ravel, right?
The Rams?
Rams, East Carolina, yeah.
So he goes coast to coast. Concerns about the injury there?
Nope.
Not at all.
Nope.
There he goes. I mean, he was one of the best players on the field.
He would be one of the best corners in the draft. I think he might be the top corner in the draft if he hadn't gotten hurt.
Wow. And that's the type of
kind of confidence I have.
There you go. And I'm with you.
Yep.
Why is that, Zach?
I love the length that he plays with. Like,
puts a chip on his shoulder.
If Al Harris was still here, I feel like Al Harris would absolutely love Siobhan Revel.
Yeah.
Revel?
Revel.
Mm-hmm. I have been saying Revel. Nick, what did you say? How did you pronounce
Revel. Yeah, that's on.
Is it Revel or is it Revel?
Revel.
It's Revel. Okay. I just love press corner, physical, long arms. I think he does a great job mirroring wide receivers off the line. To me, I think he's got the traits. If he wasn't hurt, he would be my number one corner.
All right. Ravens on the clock at 27. Nick.
Yeah, I'm looking at another player that's kind of fallen, and Man, they've lost some guys in the secondary. They're going to get younger there. They still have Marlon Humphrey in the secondary, but I look at a guy that's fallen in Malachi Starks and understanding the Ravens and how well that they have developed defensive backs over the course of the last 20 years. I'm going to go ahead and go with Malachi Starks out of Georgia, the safety.
All right, not a ton to talk about outside of the fact that he would play next to Kyle Hamilton.
Yeah, that
would be a dangerous pairing out there in the secondary. Moving on to the Lions, Zach, you've got him at 28.
Okay, they'd love a corner, but we've kind of had a run on corners here. They did also sign Reed in free agency, so that helps them there. I do think they want to go edge. They need help opposite Aiden Hutchinson. So the conversation is, do you want to go Shamar Stewart out of Texas A&M? Or do I want the guy that already has the production, and I'm not looking ahead at a guy that I'm hoping ends up being that guy? Let's go to Boston College, shall we? Let's give them the edge. Donovan, easy. I'm just going easy.
There you go.
Is that okay? Can we just go Donovan Easy?
I'll allow that.
Does anybody have a pronouncer?
Easy Ruwaku.
Easy Ruwaku.
Yep.
Easy Ruwaku.
Boston College.
Easy Ruwaku. Super productive player. Works. He's a worker. And I think Dan Campbell's going to absolutely love this guy. He breaks down his opponent as the game moves along. Loves to attack the outside shoulder. But the production was there. Single season sack record, 16.5. Also led the team with 20.5 tackles for loss. He's getting first round buzz. I think he's a great pairing with Aiden Hutchinson.
This is my hipster pick, or hipster first-round grade, at least for the guys that I have first-round grades on right now. I think this guy's an animal. You talk about the motor. Yeah. You talk about what he can do in the pass rush, what he can do in the run game. I think he's a complete guy. I have him above guys like Mike Green, James Pierce. I think this guy is a complete player off the edge. I thought he was a little bit smaller than what he came in at the combine, so that just further confirmed my theory about him. I think he's going to be a hell of a player. I think it would be a nasty pick for Detroit if they could pair him with Aiden Hutchinson.
All right, so you've got Zach off the board there. Moving on to Tommy with the Lions.
Yeah, I'm sticking with edge rushers here. I was going to pick Donovan if Zach didn't get him, so I'm going to go with the guy who maybe some might think would be dropping based on mock drafts, and it's Shamar Stewart, the edge from Texas A&M. One of, if not the biggest winner from the NFL Combine as a whole. This guy is a freak show athletically, and I know there's questions about the production and on-the-field stuff that he had at Texas A&M. You know, his sack numbers aren't that high. But if you watch the tape, this guy is just living in the backfield, and he constantly finds a way to get past offensive linemen and make himself present back there. He just hasn't gotten guys down. So if he can take that next step, keep putting pressure on the quarterback, this is a guy that Dan Quinn is going to have a lot of fun with in Washington. And they're a team that is looking to win right now. They're making those kinds of moves in free agency. They've already bolstered the interior of their defensive line. They lost, another pass rusher in Dante Fowler to the Cowboys, so now they kind of fill that gap on the opposite side with a guy in Shamar Stewart who has some really high upside.
So what was the pick there for the
Shamar Stewart, edge, Texas A&M.
Okay, so Shamar Stewart there. Sorry, I skipped ahead.
Way to zone out.
I was trying to catch up.
You only talked about one player there.
Some hopes.
I know. Yeah, my bad, dude. I missed it.
You're juggling a lot here.
Trying to.
All good.
All right.
By the way, Malachi Starks to the Ravens is a typical Ravens pick.
That's such a Ravens
My
pick,
gosh,
dude.
you kidding me?
Nasty.
Yeah, that would not be fun. All right, the on the clock there for the Buffalo Bills. They've got a lot of options here. Could possibly go cornerback. You got some depth issues there at corner. Defensive line help could possibly come into play both at edge and on the interior. Grant, Nolan, Harmon, Graham off the board on the inside. I think they would maybe stretch here and go get an edge rusher. We talked about these edges a couple different times. I think they're going to fly off the board.
Got a run here.
Another run of edge. I wouldn't be shocked if they go with a guy like Princely Umami-Ellen out of Ole Miss. Kind of an athletic guy, somebody that you could possibly rely on. That would be a game wrecker there. Pierce is not there. I'm trying to look at some of the other ones. Yeah, I'm going to go with Princely Umami-Ellen. He's my highest rated edge rusher, and I think that's where they could probably see the best fit on their defense and in their front seven.
And we've got Jahad Campbell, Josh Simmons, and Emeka Egbuka all falling.
Yeah.
Still going.
Those are some good players.
And now we're moving on to pick number 31. That is the Kansas City Chiefs. Brian.
Yeah, the Kansas City Chiefs need to figure out who's going to play next to Chris Jones at defensive tackle. This is where guys like Harmon would have made a lot of sense for them. I'm going to give them Darius Alexander from Toledo at this pick. I think that he'd be a really, really nice fit for how that they want to play their front. And I think that he's one of these guys that kind of saw him as a third-round guy, and then all of a sudden you started to watch the workouts. You got some more tape on him. He's a guy that clearly needs to be selected here in the first round. So could have maybe thought about an offensive lineman here, but I went with Darius Alexander, defensive tackle from Toledo.
Love it.
Yeah, I think about offensive line for them just because of how the Super Bowl went down.
Yeah.
Like Josh Simmons.
Yeah, that would
be
probably
a steal
be
for them right here.
That would be the perfect pick there, with him still being on the board. Alexander there, though, I like that pick a lot.
They went for Jalen Moore at tackle in free agency, and then they're going to move Kingsley to guard, so that they kind of like they're hopeful there. But Simmons is a consideration there. But like I say, their defensive line, I think that's why I went for Darius Alexander.
Nice, I like it. Nick, round this out. 32 on the clock. The hated Philadelphia Eagles. Who cares who they pick?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, they have an embarrassment of riches in the fact that they can pretty much go wherever they want here. Now, that run of edges there at what do we have there at like 28 through 30? That would not benefit Philly just because they've lost some talent on the edge. I mean, they currently have Moro Ojomo set to start on the edge if the season were to start today. Another Hookem guy, but I don't think he's a starter. I think. Yeah, they could go in many different directions here. Let me I'll tell you what. Let me go ahead and grab a guy that can certainly help in the secondary. Traded C.J. Gardner-Johnson.
Pick Xavier Watts. Go ahead.
Yeah, going to help in the secondary. Smart player.
Yep.
I'm going to go Xavier Watts.
Great pick. That guy's a clutch. That guy's a clutch player.
I love him.
Name. So. That's a great pick.
He's going to be a really good pro.
Yep.
So as we wrap up this first round, let's take a look at some of those sleep on your board guys. I mean, you've got Josh Simmons working his way into the second round. Jahad Campbell still there. Emeka Egbuka still there. You got all the running backs outside of Ashton Jeanty available going into day 2. Any of those names interest you across the board?
I mean, Jahad Campbell and Emeka Egbuka, like those would be two names that even at 12, I think you would talk about. So, yeah, I mean, if I had the ability, now you already took a receiver in McMillan, so obviously Egbuka, you're probably not doubling down, but Jahad Campbell is an athletic freak. And Philly, I think that he's got the ability to edge rush too. So would they consider him as a guy that can do a little bit of both?
Yeah, I think that if you looked at my sleeping on the board, I've got Simmons probably over Egbuka, and then over Morrison, the corner from Notre Dame, is where I would look right there. And then you're going to have your choice for some of these running backs. I got Johnson over Hampton over Henderson. Hope that holds up. I don't think in the second round that's going to hold up.
Yeah, I think this would be a pretty fun scenario for the Cowboys if the board were to fall like this in the first round, just because you have two different opportunities for other teams to go on running back runs.
Yeah.
You have that 20 to 25 range where if the Broncos pull the trigger on a Marion Hampton, and you could really see some running backs fly off the board there in the 20s. The second possibility is right at the top of the second round. The Browns pick first. They could go with a guy like a Marion Hampton, but if there's guys still on the board like a Josh Simmons, like a Gray Zabel, or a Jahad Campbell, then those kinds of players, you go get that talent first, and then maybe a talented running back does fall to you at 44. This would be a pretty solid scenario for the Cowboys if they were trying to get a home run hitter at 44 at running back.
What do you think, Tommy?
No, I completely agree with what everybody said. Maxwell Hairston is a guy who jumps out as somebody who I could have seen going in the first round, just because you look at some of these teams that may have taken a chance on a corner. Gray Zabel, interior offensive lineman from North Dakota State. That's a guy that you look at some of these teams that are like maybe a Kansas City, and he's played some tackle. So could that be an option for him out there? But aside from that, I don't know if anything necessarily has shocked me. I mean, Simmons from Ohio State, if he drops, I feel like that the medical is going to be a big reason why.
That'd be why, probably.
I know you had said that you got the. Did you get green light on that?
Yep,
okay.
Yep.
So maybe that changes things, but I agree with Nick that in terms of if this is how it falls for the Cowboys, they should be very pleased.
Yeah. There's a lot of opportunity going into day 2. You got the second round and third round pick. day 3 is where it's going to get really interesting. We'll get a 7-round mock here over the next couple of weeks, but that's the first round mock all the way complete. I tweeted out all of the finishing picks along the way, so you could follow along as you listen, 1 through 10, 11 through 20, and then 21 through 32. Hope you had some fun with us here over the last hour. It was a blast kind of working through these scenarios, and again, it's still going to change. We're still 1 month away from the NFL draft in Green Bay. Can't wait for that day in late April. For Zach Wolchuk, Bryan Broaddus, Tommy Yarrish, Nick Harris, Chris Beam in the back of Kyle Youmans saying so long from the Draft Show. We will see you next week.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys?